Hello, happy Thursday. I'm actually recording this at 11:45 a.m. This is probably the earliest I've recorded one of these episodes in, excuse me, probably over a year. I think at this point, but I have a busy day today and I wanted to, get the show out of the way, and then upload it before, I just really, get my day. I apologize for no episode on Wednesday. I had a couple things come up that normally do not come up on Wednesday. But for today's episode, we're going to get into some players that could, that are going into their final year of their contracts that, could they be extended during the season? That's mostly going to revolve around Tristan Jarry. And I've seen that topic a lot on different, different people that have Penguins content on social media and just, who cover the team and all that. So I'm going to give my thoughts on that. We're also going to get into, I think the Metro hierarchy and where the Penguins rank right now going into mid-August, as we're basically almost a month away from training camp, and a couple other news and notesy items for today's episode. So that's all coming up right after this drop.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter, Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter, LO_Penguins. And of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. Before we really get started for today's episode, just want to send my heartfelt, my thoughts and condolences to the family of Ben Stelter, the diehard Edmonton Oilers fan. He was only 6 years old, died from brain cancer. This past week, his dad, Mike, put a beautiful post on Twitter. If you haven't seen it, his @ is M_Dan25. He was at numerous Oilers games during the year, just an inspiration to so many people in this world, and just a great kid, touched all of our hearts. And it's really sad. But I just want to start out with that. So incredibly for their loss, and my thoughts and prayers go out to his family and his friends during this time. Now we can get into the meat of the episode. So I've been thinking about this, the last couple of days. So you go to the Penguins cap friendly here. They have quite a few players that are going into their last year, their contracts, or if it's a 1-year deal. And one of those players, Jason Zucker, $5.5 million this year. He's a UFA next year. Teddy Bluger, same thing. Danton Heinen, only a 1-year deal. Josh Archibald, he's a UFA after this year. Brian Dumoulin, he's a UFA after this year. And then Tristan Jarry. What I'm really going to start with, though, is Tristan Jarry. So, and he's definitely been, I guess, how do I want to say? I guess a mixed bag since he came into the league. His regular season numbers, they're not terrible. 2019-20, when he was with Matt Murray, played in 33 games, he was at 921 save percentage, 2.43 goals against average. When you look back at it, he probably should have started that series against the Canadians, just because I think Sullivan, and I was guilty of this too. I was confident in Murray because it's a fresh slate. It's a fresh slate for him. That was Sullivan's guy. He didn't end up getting the job done. And then you put Tristan in for an elimination game, actually plays his tail off, gives up that goal with only a few minutes remaining because the Penguins looked like they didn't even care that they were in the bubble at that point. And then, you fast forward to 2020, 2021, has a decent regular season, has an 909 save percentage. It's basically league average, 25-9-3, good record, but, wins for a goalie, I don't really put a lot of stock into, just because, that's a team stat. But individually, goals against average, a little higher than I would want. 909 save percentage, a little lower than I would want. And then this year, rebounded a bit, 34-18-6, 919 save percentage, 2.42 goals against average, 4 shutouts, finished top 10 in the Vezina, 7th actually. And you also look at his overall metrics on Money Puck, saved almost 13 goals above expected. That's 11th in the league. That's actually tied for 10th with Ilya Sorokin. So he was basically a top 10 goalie per money puck. And, I've been seeing this a lot from some, from people, either around the team that cover them, or, fans that, oh yeah, you could get an extension done for Tristan Jarry this offseason. It's like, okay, sure. But is that really what should be in the best interest for the team? Remember, we still have not seen him, atone for what happened in 2020, 2021, when he was the main reason why this team failed against New York Islanders. The Penguins, they outplayed them for well over half of that series. I would probably say it's 65 to 70%. I think the Islanders definitely outplayed them in, a couple of those games, but I would say in the majority of those games, at least 3, probably even 4, the Penguins were the better team. They just got sunk by Jarry. And, this year he was on pace to go into the playoffs and potentially, ride that redemption story and, show everyone, including myself, that was not him last year. Lo and behold, Undersley obviously had other plans. He, barreled into Jarry, broke his foot. I'm not going to sit here and call him, Chris Kreider with Carey Price and all that stuff. I think that's just a plain old accident with Undersley, but that definitely put a wrench into his plans. But now, it looks like he's fully healthy. He's having a full offseason to train again. This year I think is going to be the big year. And again, I'm not comfortable with extending him right now. Honestly, I'm not really comfortable extending him during the season either. Goaltending, you very rarely want to pay a lot of big bucks to the non-elite goalies. Like even this summer, for example, Darcy Kemper in Washington. I think he's a fantastic goalie. Is he a top 5 goalie in the league? No, but he got $5 million per year. To me, maybe that's a little bit steep because he wasn't that good for Colorado in the playoffs. He's probably going to make me eat crow because he's been really good during the last few regular seasons. The Capitals had to do something at that position. I commend them for it, but still, is anyone here comfortable giving Tristan $5 million a year right now? I would like to think most of you would say no, but there's probably some people out there that, I would love to hear the arguments as to why he should get that kind of money. But the reality is, he's never shown, in my opinion, that he should be getting that kind of money. Yeah, okay, he did play at a Vezina caliber level during the first half to maybe the first 2/3 of the regular season before falling off because he was getting too much playing time, and then Smith was not playing well and all that other stuff. But again, I think he's at least an average starter in this league, probably a little bit above average. But are you thinking he should be getting top 10 goalie money and that kind of stuff? No. And the goalie market next year, if I can go on to Cap Friendly here, and just take a look here, real quick. Make sure that this is. Make sure this is next year is free agents. If I can update the results. Don't know why. I don't know why Cap Friendly is just being weird. Whatever. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try to make this work, and I guess whatever. Okay. Well, I'll figure that out in a second. I'll have to take a look to see who the goalie options are next year. But he makes 3.5 right now. That's a fine salary. Smith makes 1.8. You're only paying your goalies $5.3 million for the season for a cap strap team like the Penguins. That's very solid. I will take that any day of the week. But again, in my opinion, with the numbers that I just gave you, his overall stuff in the playoffs, I don't think he's shown yet that he should get a long-term lucrative extension with the team. I think, there will be a time to really have this discussion, probably closer to the playoffs next year, if not after the season. But I just don't want Ron Hextall to, excuse me, rush into this like he did with Jeff Carr. Remember, having a great year, and at the time I was like, oh yeah, okay, keeps this up, it's going to be fine. He came crashing down to earth and stunk the rest of the year. Yeah, I understand he put up 18 goals, played okay in the playoffs, but I don't know. I don't think he's going to score for 18 goals next year. I'd be kind of surprised at this point. So that is, I think, one of my biggest fears. Excuse me, with just the overall, with the stance with that is like, okay, if you do rush into an extension and say you do sign him, what's to say that, he is going to fall off a bit, and then you're stuck with him for, however many years, whether it's, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, at a pretty big cap hit. So I think the Penguins, they got to be pretty. I mean, they got to be pretty careful there, to say the least. And I mean, I'm looking at here. I do have the goalie market up here right now, and it ain't a good market next year. I mean, Braden Holtby's up, but I don't think he's playing this year. Andrew Hammond, Dylan Ferguson. I mean, a lot of these goalies are just. I mean, there's not a lot. I mean, we all thought the goalie market this year was weak. I will say this: it is pretty freaking crappy next year. That's all I'm gonna say at this point. So, maybe they can work out a trade for one, like Colorado did with Kemper last year, if they're able to. But right now, I want to let this season play out. If he does have an elite level season, that's in a caliber for a full year, plays very well in the playoffs, I would be very open to extending him. But until that happens, I'm going to remain a bit skeptical of extending him, and I would want to wait until either around the playoffs or a bit after the season. But that wraps up my thoughts on that part of the extension talk. Coming up in the second segment, we're going to get into where I think the Penguins stack up in the Metro right now, which is basically around mid-August. Obviously, there's still a lot of time that changed between now and training camp where the Penguins can finalize their roster, but wanted to get into that after I was listening into a Rangers space actually the other night to support my buddy Nick Zararis, and they were going around asking then where they think the Rangers fit in. So I wanted to use this segment to talk about where I think the Penguins are. But coming up, but before we get to that, our next partner has a product I use literally every day. I started taking Athletic Greens because, didn't have time in the morning. Sometimes I wanted better gut health, more energy, optimized immune system. So what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, and probiotics to help you start your day right. The special blend of ingredients support your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all of those things. Now, it's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. Contains less than 1 gram of sugar. It supports better sleep quality and recovery. Also supports mental clarity and alertness. It's the one thing with the best things. Athletic Greens use the best of the best products based on the latest science with constant product irritations and third-party testing. It costs you less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with a convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop and a cup of water every day. And that's it. There's no need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up your ultimate daily nutritional insurance. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at @LO_Penguins. Excuse me. So let's get into the second topic for today, which is, doing a little Metropolitan Division hierarchy, heading now into mid-August, the offseason, getting closer to being over. It's funny, I hate this month just because it's so slow, but it's flying by. Sooner or later I'm going to be, going to Aruba with my girlfriend for our 2-year anniversary. Right around September 6th, and right after that, in a week or two, training camp starts. So I'm just counting down the days to both those things at this point. So I know it's been tough lately with not a lot going on, but bear with me. We're getting closer to coming out of this, this dead period here. But going into the season with the Metro, it's an interesting division. But I do think at the top spot are the Carolina Hurricanes. I know Max Pacioretty is going to be out until February. That is a killer injury for them. It is, they basically got him for free from the Vegas Golden Knights. And he tore his Achilles. It sounds like they're not really going to Kucherov him, so they're not going to put him on LTIR for the rest of the regular season. But right now, looks like he's out until February. You look at their lines, and this comes from the Cardiac Cane account. No, Svechnikov, Aho, Jarvis, Teravainen, Kotkaniemi, Martin Necas, Jordan Staal, Andre Kasha, Jesper Foss, Brian Dzingel, Jordan Martin Hook on the fourth line. They're definitely not as deep as they were, but I still think, defensively, when you look at, Brent Burns is there, Jacob Slavin, Brett Pesce, their goaltending, Frederik Andersen had had the best seasons of his career last year when he was healthy. They still have Ranta. I do think this is still the best team in the Metro, and I think they're only going to get better when Pacioretty does come back. So I still would have them as the favorite right now. I know they're going to be without Pacioretty for most of the season, but I still think they have enough offense. They're well coached. They're good defensively. And Anderson is potentially going to have a really good year again, where I think they can still and should be the favorite in this division. Next up, I would have, it's either a mix of the Penguins and the Rangers. I do understand why some people, have the Rangers at that number 2 spot, and I would probably put them there too. But, the Rangers, people don't want to, their fan base doesn't want to say this, but they lost a lot of offense this offseason. Andrew Copp, gone to Detroit. Brian Strome, gone to Anaheim. Frank Vatrano, gone as well. Those are, they lost a good chunk of offense. And, Tyler Mott, he's also gone. And sure, they brought in Vince Trocheck, 7 years, almost $6 million per. And he's basically going to take that Ryan Strome job. But, the Rangers, a lot, I think, has to go right for them to finish as high as they did again next season. And they definitely can. But, is Shesterkin going to be at 935 to 940 again? I think that's a really strong question to ask. Is their power play going to be at 25 to 30% for an entire year? I think that's also a very good question to ask. Are their kids also going to make a big time jump? Hedel, Lafreniere, Kakko, they're good players, but are they going to be those consistent 50 to 60, maybe even 70-point players that I think some of their fans expect them to? So far, all three have not been able to do that. And they showed flashes in the playoffs of, being that next wave of really, really good elite players in this league. But, so far, for the regular seasons, they have not done that just yet. So I'm definitely a bit skeptical of some parts of the Rangers, but I do think, it's them in Pittsburgh, I think, going to be jockeying for that second spot. And honestly, if the Hurricanes do struggle a lot more than I expect them to with Pacioretty out, I expect the Penguins and Rangers to potentially battle for first place in this division. With them, I think the Washington Capitals, they're right in that top 4 as well. Honestly, I think the top 4 from last season is unchanged. That is how I see it. Right now, the Capitals, they had some good moves this offseason. Getting Dylan Strome on a cheap deal. I think he's going to be a really nice Backstrom replacement, because I don't think Backstrom is going to play at all next year. Darcy Kemper, they were able to get him to be their star goaltender. They made all of the changes to their goaltending. They got that St. Louis Blues back up, and I'm almost just I'm pretty sure it's Lindgren, excuse me. That's their backup. So yeah, they just brought 2 new goaltenders in. It's the right move for them. But they had their forward group, I think, is still pretty decent. I'm not sure if they're ever going to be a contender again, but they're going to certainly try their best as Ovi is getting up there in edge. I think most of their fan base just wants to see him break the goal record at this point anyway. Sure, they probably want him to get another cup. I mean, he only has one in his career, but still, I think they made some good moves this offseason that should have them comfortably back in a playoff spot. So that's my top 4 right now. If I had to rank them, I'd go Carolina as like a 1A, Rangers as a 1B, with Penguins as a 1B, B- C, and then I would have the Capitals, right behind them. But I don't know if that top 4 is going to go exactly as you saw last year. I think you might see some flip flopping and stuff. When I was in that Rangers space, and a couple of their fans were saying that they're going to be like a top 3 team in the conference next year. I'm like, okay, I don't know where that's coming from, but I think they're going to be really good. But I think, again, I'm not sure they had as good of an offseason as some have thought. Outside of that, I would probably put Columbus in that number 5 spot. They were decent last year, a little under 500, but still like 20 points out of a playoff spot. Johnny Gaudreau will help them get closer to a playoff spot. But, you look at the rest of that team, right? And, who else really scares you, just in that forward group? That's the thing I think that I'm still coming back to with regards to the Jackets. Jacob Voracek makes $8.2 million for the next 2 years. He barely scored it all last year. Good playmaker. Hardly scored it all. Hard pass. Patrick Laine, 4 years at $8.7 million. All that guy does is basically just pot goals. And when he's not doing that, he's really not doing much for you on the ice. Gustav Nyquist, okay. Jack Roslovich, okay. But Sean Corrali, Eric Robinson, Chikhanov, Cole Sillinger, Emil Bernstrom, it's just, there's really not much in that forward group outside of Gaudreau. Defensively, Werenski's really good, but he's also making $9.5 million. I don't think he's ever going to be worth that money. Eric Branson somehow signed 4x4. Gavrikov is there. Adam Boquist is a decent player. Jake Bean, Andrew Big, and then in goal, Merzlikins. If he can bounce back, it makes things a little bit more interesting. But I just don't see how this team cracks the top four next year. Even if Johnny does have a 90-point to 100-point season, I just don't see it. Number 6, I would probably have the Islanders. I know they probably have moves coming that will probably catapult them into that number 5 spot. And there's rumors that they could be close to signing Condrey. I know Kevin Weeks is out there saying that. Oh, wow. I checked my phone right now. And sorry. I apologize about that. The Vegas Golden Knights just announced that Robin Lehner is expected to miss the entire 23 NHL season. Wow. Okay. That is some massive news. Maybe they'll be in the goalie market now. Sorry. Anyways, going back to what I was saying. The Islanders, and this is what Lou does, man. He always likes to play the long game, likes to wait to announce the stuff. Remember, it was like a late August day last year where they announced like the Parise signing, another signing. It's just all like these extensions and all this stuff. Kevin Weeks said that he might have like 3 to 4 moves coming. So, that's just how he operates. He's a boomer. That's what he does. I just don't, they haven't really done anything this offseason. Yeah, that's going to change. But right now, I don't think they're a playoff team next year. And they also fired Barry Trotz. So, whatever. I guess in the bottom 2 spots, the Devils and the Flyers. Philadelphia, I don't know why they think they're contending. Their forward group is terrible. Defensively, they're not good. Carter Hart hasn't been himself the last couple of years. New Jersey, I like their young forwards, and I think Jack Hughes is potentially going to have a 100-point season. But, it really all depends on them with McKenzie, Blackwood, and Vitek Vanacek. If they can get decent goaltending, maybe that can slide them up a couple spots. But, I just don't see it too much right now. So that's my Metropolitan Division hierarchy as of right now. Coming up in the final segment, we're going to get into a little more of those potential contract extensions for the Penguins during the offseason. I mainly wanted to headline in the first segment with Jarry because that's the biggest one. But I'll get to some of the other ones to end the show here. But before I get to that, betonline.net is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your betting needs. You can find all of your favorite sports and events at the #1 source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline or use your phone to learn more of the trends in action. That's BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, I'm back here on this episode of the Locked On Penguins podcast. I am your host, Hunter Hodes. Remember to follow me on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Follow the show's Twitter at LONSHOW Penguins. And, of course, thank you all so much for making this your first listen of the day. So let's get into some of the other potential the other players that are set to be free agents next year. One of them starting with Jason Zucker. No, I'm not extending him during the season. The only way I even extend him is if he has a season for the ages and if he accepts a lower AAV. I'm not sure if he's ever going to be worth $5.5 million. I think he's probably just going to walk next year anyway. I don't think he's going to have that season for the ages anyway. The Penguins should not be touching him with regards to extension, from a 10-foot pole, in my opinion. Teddy Bluger, $2.2 million, good fourth line center. I'm just not sure how the organization evaluates him. I've heard from someone that they're not that high on him. Take that from the person who is, closer to the team than I am, but that's what I've heard. So, and it lines up with the scoop I had for you all that he was in the original trade offer for Jeff Petrie with Marcus Pettersson. So I'll take that for what it's worth. I'm not really sure how enamored they are with him. Maybe it was just a matter of, to get a good player, you have to give up a couple good players, but so I'm not really sure he's going to get extended next year. Maybe if he's having a good season down there, he could get an extension during the year, even though Ron Hextall doesn't like to discuss contracts during the season. But who knows? I think they could potentially be looking elsewhere next year if you kind of see more of the same with him. Dan Heinen, $1 million. He's 27. If he has another strong year, I would be very open to signing him to a multi-year extension. He should not be getting $1 million right now. That would be absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. It's absolutely crazy that he is only getting that. Just 18 goals last year, 15 of them at 5v5, tied for first on the team with Sidney Crosby for the most. It's criminal how underpaid he is. Josh Archibald, no, I'm not extending him during the season. I don't think he's going to be that good anyway. Brian Dumoulin, $4.1 million. No. Even if he has a good bounce back year this year, I just don't think you can get away with extending him. You look at where he is right now, 30 years old. He's going to be 31. Do you want to be the team that's paying him from his age 31 to 35 seasons? And I understand that the Penguins are already paying a lot of players who are older a good chunk of money. Brian Russ is going to be making a lot of money. Said, Evgeny Malkin, Chris Thing. But, Brian Dumoulin is not any of those players. I'm sorry. He is not. You've already seen, the tires really start to have their marks made. If that makes sense. I think I got that right, but if I didn't, I apologize. You're already starting to see just a lot of tire marks on the road here, and there's also, again, there's no full guarantee that he does bounce back this year. Obviously, I think the Penguins are counting on him too, because I don't think they're going to trade him during the rest of this offseason. But there's definitely a lot of risk, involved with that. And I think more teams are going to be willing to pay Dumoulin what he wants when he hits the open market next year. Just because, he has that two-time Stanley Cup pedigree. He's a good defenseman in his own zone and all of that stuff. So, sure, doesn't bring a lot of offense, but, veteran leadership. Again, I know I'm repeating myself here. I apologize, but, veteran leadership, two-time Stanley Cup champion, good defensively, doesn't beat himself. All those, the intangibles aspect, all that stuff is just, NHL GMs love that from a defenseman. If Eric Branson's getting $4 million per, I actually would like to see what Dumoulin gets, even though he's 30 years old. So, no, I would not also touch an extension for Dumoulin. I do think he's going to walk next year anyway. I think this is probably going to be his final season in the black and gold. But I'll be rooting for him. I hope he does bounce back. I hope he proves me wrong. But right now, I'm just not super confident in it, to say the least. So I think that wraps up today's show for the Locked On Penguins podcast. I apologize for being startled when I looked at my phone to make sure I didn't have any alerts yet. It looks like Robin Leonard is going to be out for the full year for Vegas. So that definitely, it's a big deal for the Pacific Division and obviously for Vegas as a whole. But I appreciate all of you listening to this episode. I'll have another one for you all on Friday as we continue to chug along through August here. First couple of weeks down, a couple of weeks more to go, and then we'll be hitting September, and then training camp is right around the corner. So again, I appreciate all of you listening. Thank you all so much. And I will be back with you all on Friday.